I think it's the theme of intellectual and moral solidarity is a very important one for universities, because universities are believed to be important for also the conservation and the promotion of values in a society, and more many people think that also for the next generations universities will be really the centers where values, democracy, solidarity, human rights and so will be strongly maintained. But then the question is, of course, you cannot be active in all fields of solidarity, on all fields of justice and so on. So it's also important to select those out where you have most competence. And one of the things I liked in this project is that it is dealing with also not only moral solidarity, but with intellectual solidarity and intellectual solidarity between scholars in different universities. So if there is something we can do very strongly to promote on the long term solidarity and moral solidarity, I think it is to promote wherever we can through our relationships with also other universities in other countries, and certainly to have good relationships with other scholars, and especially in those countries where these values we usually stand for are not perfectly realized yet. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the major issues for the whole world in the future will be to find some common links that are, so to speak, determining the basic values that all countries can adhere to. And I once heard an interview where people called it, we have to look for a kind of Esperanto for law. So what are the legal rules that almost all countries can adhere to, and the same on morality and on solidarity. So one should actually try to achieve a kind of Esperanto to say these are the basic values that all universities, and if the universities accept it, I think they can push also their societies and their governments to adhere to that. Mm-hmm. So I think that these issues should be translated into university lives, in that all trainings and all faculties should push that, and that everybody should be aware of it. Saying that every individual must be active on that field is probably a little bit too optimistic, because not all people have the affinity to do that. But one should take care that, for instance, in each faculty or each large research group, and also in doctoral schools, for instance, the theme is approached, and that there are lessons and actions going on. And then I think, depending on the personal affinity for every individual, you will find people that will be also very active on that field. I think very, very close. Like I told you, we are right now in a whole process to see what, to find out what we as a Catholic university understand under the Catholic values, or the Christian values. I think we have to translate them today into the new problems of the society and the societies, the world societies. And I think that's certainly the theme here of intellectual and moral solidarity is certainly one of the values I would like to further promote. And I think by doing so, if we can, for instance, help scholars that have problems in their countries, I think that can create an enormous leverage. If you help them and then they can go back and push there, that can create a very strong leverage. Yes, I think so. And this is always the tension that there is between idealism and practicality. To give you an example, of course, as a university, we are also approached by many countries, by many ambassadors that come by, and sometimes we have to make relationships with political institutions and countries where we know that there still are problems with respect to solidarity, with respect to human rights, and with respect to intellectual freedom. Of course, that's a problem that all the democratic countries have. So what are you doing? Are you saying we don't have any relationships before all these conditions are fulfilled? Or you can have a more practical, pragmatic attitude and say, let's try to build on relationships, and let's exploit these relationships as a possibility to first help individual scholars in those countries, and also to be able to talk on a regular basis about things that we perceive as a problem. Our general strategy has always been the latter one. So we, and you know, very is even in individual cases, now and then there was the question, should the university not think about a boycott of country A, B and C. Personally, I don't think it's a good idea. I think the best way to improve things is to continue to talk with people and to try to find things in common interest, and to build on relationships, even if we still have a lot of criticisms regarding what is going on in another country. I think that's a very important question, and actually it's maybe a coincidence, but the opening speech of this academic year, I was talking about what we call the third way university. That means that it is a university that certainly has some aspirations to reach the very, very high level research and technological achievements of what's sometimes called the American research elite universities. But beside that, we also think that that cannot be our only focus. So by doing so, we always must look at values in addition to that. I think that achieving the highest standards of research and science and technology is a very, very good value, and we should try to achieve that. But in addition, you must always do that by regarding also other elements. And if in one situation, I always say, if you have the possibility in a, let's say, a laboratory to write 10 nature papers, that's fantastic. But if you can write only 8, and in replacement of these 2 other nature papers, you are doing things on solidarity, values, collaboration on all the other levels, I would prefer the second one. But it also means that as an institution, we must say that we think that is important. And for instance, I think we can have ways to do that. To give you one idea, we could say the research money that we have, we give only and exclusively on the basis of research output. But we could also say that some percentage of the money that we give in excellent groups, we give also on the basis on how good they interact with other groups, with other countries, and we could add how active they are on the field of solidarity, for instance.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important. I think that many young people have the capacity to be sensitive for that, but if they are not instructed, if they are not confronted with that, they will not develop it. And I'm always surprised myself if there are solidarity actions going on in this university. Like last year we had also the iCare solidarity action, how many students you can mobilize, and that's certainly something which we don't do enough as yet. I think that's enormously important. So we have more and more codes. We have also codes on scientific integrity, and there is a special committee, and we see once it works, it's very interesting. When it works, you become more and more, your attention is drawn to more and more problems that are looking for a solution. So if one should come to a similar thing of a kind of code of morality and solidarity and engagement, I think we could have also a very, very positive effect there. And also by coincidence, we are presently trying to, there is a committee that is trying to highlight all the activities that is going on the level of service to society in the university. There is always a lot of complaints by both students and also professors and scholars that they say if they evaluate us, it's only on the basis of research. That goes very easily by counting publications. Training and education, that's already a little bit less because it's more difficult to measure that. But many people are doing a lot of efforts as a service to society, and that's not taken into account at all. So we have now presently a committee that starts to work and ask the questions, do we have ways to measure that and to have it registered so that also professors can have promotions and on the base not only of their teaching and research capacities, but also on the basis of their capacity to do things for society. Yeah, I think this is certainly is that's the thing we were talking about a few minutes ago. I think wise solidarity is a very important issue, and I think that the concept of sustainability should come in. Sometimes you may want to achieve something very quickly, but it will not be realized, or it will give a resistance. So I think wise sustainability should also take into account the long-term results you want to achieve, and also the practicability and also the sensitivity of, for instance, the local community and the local society. If tomorrow, for instance, we would say we will give 20% of all our university money to solidarity projects, we will have a very, very strong resistance. So that's not a good thing. So and that would not be wise to do so. So there I think we have to reflect on what we mean by wise solidarity and how the factor acceptability and sustainability plays in that phenomenon. I think this goes especially through our mission statement. So and once again, we are presently in a process of refining our mission statement. If we say that we adhere very strongly to Christian and humanistic values, I would like that to be translated in examples. And I think being active on the solidarity field, and then especially on the intellectual and moral solidarity is certainly a very, very good issue.